The film begins with a gambling arena between Baku Madarame and Soichi Kuruma, the 21st generation royal leader of the Kakeru Club. The Kakeru Club is Japan's largest gambling organization, overseeing a variety of high stakes. Its members are drawn from the country's elite, so it's no surprise that the Kakeru Club's power rivals that of the Japanese government. At the time, Baku directly challenged the leader of the Kakeru Club at the risk of his life. Baku's goal was to seize Soichi's position as leader of the Kakeru Club. The gambling was overseen by two referees, namely Mitoshi Nawa and Ekoichi Neko. After finishing the biscuits, Baku predicted that an airplane would pass by the location within an hour. Unexpectedly, with the Kakeru Club's power, they could easily divert all flights in Japan. As a result, none of the planes that passed through the arena, including one rented by Baku, were able to take off. When Baku was about to be executed, Hikoichi informed him that Soichi had cancelled his execution. Baku will instead be exiled to a remote location, and his membership in Kakeru will be revoked. Will the legendary lie gambling eater's career come to an end? Baku was spotted 3 years later in a remote area called Makurajima. Baku approached a group of low-level gamblers who placed bets at the time. Baku, unafraid, immediately placed a bet of 1 million yen, declaring that he would eat the gamblers' lies. Baku immediately won the bet after only one round. And then he discovered that the gambler had put a magnet in the dice and another magnet under the table, which is why the number of dice that came out was always the same, but Baku could easily break that lie because he had also placed a magnet in the pile of money, so the one of the dice that came out would change position. Baku met one of his colleagues in the evening, and his colleague told him that there was a commotion in Tokyo because there was someone who wanted to beat the Kakeru Club leader. Just like Baku before, he was a researcher named Ikisada Kuni, who was known to have discovered a breakthrough for mining methanohydrate, a new energy that can replace oil. He is known to have invested all of his personal funds in the research without involving the government, but one day an explosion occurred in his laboratory, killing all members of the lab and causing Sada Kuni to vanish from public view. According to a source, Sada Kuni is now eyeing the Kakeru Club and hopes to become its leader. Baku is eager to return to Tokyo to settle grudges from his past after hearing his colleague's story. The scene then shifts to a gambling match between a finance minister named Masahiro Onodera and Ikisada Kuni, which is directly supervised by the referee for the 10 Kakeru clubs named Kiro Mekama. Onodera, the finance minister, purposefully challenged Sada Kuni to gamble at that time because he wanted to control the next election by exploiting Sada Kuni's research findings. Unfortunately, Sada Kuni was a brilliant gambler, so this ambition was a total failure. He even managed to win 6 betting rounds in a row. After losing the gambling, Onodera ordered his men to kill Mekama. Fortunately, Mekama has very good martial arts skills, so he was able to finish them all off without any assistance. After the gambling was over, Mekama approached Sada Kuni and asked to be his personal referee. Baku meets Takaomi Kaji when he arrives in Tokyo. Kaji is a sweet young man, but he has been duped by his friends and owes a lot of money to loan sharks. Baku offered to assist Kaji because he felt sorry for him. In the evening, the two of them went to an illegal casino owned by a woman named Ranko Karama, where Baku and Kaji gambled with the money they had. The way gambling worked was that they bet coins on the numbers on the board, and if the ball stopped at the number they chose, they won the bet. Baku purposefully bets his coin on all numbers except the one chosen. Kaji thought that step was stupid because it meant they lost more coins. Baku then increased the bet because they had won so many times, but he failed at that step. This irritated Kaji because they had lost a lot of money and didn't want to give up so easily, so Baku returned to increase the bet and bet on all numbers except the red 9. Baku ate his biscuits as the gambling began, and when Kaji noticed that he had bet all of his coins on the red 9, it was Baku's plan. He ordered Kaji to bet all of his coins on the number he had not chosen when he took out his biscuits. Baku had already suspected that the game had been rigged because the dealer can direct the ball to any number they want. Baku and Kaji finally had 5 million yen after winning the game. Baku gave all of the money to Kaji after the win so that he could pay his debts and continue his life. Unfortunately, Baku believes that their relationship ends there because he did not want to endanger Kaji's life. Kaji became bored after paying his debts and enjoying his life because there was no challenge in his life. Even though he now had a lot of money, he couldn't feel as happy as he did with Baku. Simultaneously, Baku met Sada Kuni and challenged him to a gambling game. Unfortunately, Sadakuni declined the challenge because he was not a member of the Kakeru Club at the time, and upon hearing this, Baku sought a way to join the Kakeru Club. Baku needed to find a member of the Kakeru Club who was willing to grant him membership in order to accomplish this. Taro Kokwon, a psychopath, is an old man who is a member of the Kakeru Club and may be able to give up his membership status, according to Ranko. Following that, Baku met Kaji, who begged Baku to accompany him. Surprisingly, Baku immediately agreed to Kaji's wishes. They then devised a strategy to deal with Taro Kokwon. They both pretended to be poor in order for Kokwon to invite them to gamble. Kokwon then directed them to his house, which is hidden in the woods. Kokwon explained that in this game, Baku and Kaji must catch several of his pets in order to obtain the keys within a certain amount of time. Kokwon offers them 10 million yen as a reward if they can. Hikoichi Yako, a representative referee from the Kakeru Club, was also present. Baku then stated that he did not want to bet money and requested that Kokwon provide his membership status if Baku and Kaji completed the gambling. Kokwon felt challenged after hearing that, so he agreed to Baku's request. Baku was overjoyed, and he gave Hikoichi a pen as a gift. Unbeknownst to them, the pen was a recording device directly linked to Baku. Baku can thus hear all of Kokwon and Hikoichi's conversations in the room using that tool. The game was up and running in no time. Baku and Kaji dashed into the forest in search of Kokwon's 5 pets. The pet in question turned out to be a human wielding a weapon, not an animal. Baku and Kaji worked together to defeat the first pet. They then defeated the second pet by duping it with a voice recording. Meanwhile, the third and fourth pets were defeated using a sharp rope they had already installed. And the final pet can be paralyzed by swapping Kaji and Baku's clothes for the third and fourth pet's clothes. Baku and Kaji finished the game using that trick. Annoyed by their trick, Kokwon releases his ultimate pet, a burly human named Rotom, who turns out to be Kokwon's biological son whom he turns into a terrible monster. Rotom only has one weakness: his brain is too small, so he always falls asleep after 15 minutes. Baku and Kaji, who saw Rotom, of course tried to escape, and then they entered a warehouse and found a bottle of methanol used as a weapon. They also gained Kokwon's membership as a result of their actions. Hikoichi then congratulated Kaji on becoming an official member of Kakeru. It turns out that this is the real reason Baku invited Kaji. His previous problems with the Kakeru Club had rendered him unable to be a member, so he needed someone to act as a bridge, and while Kaji initially refused, he eventually agreed and chose to believe in Baku. The next day, Baku returned to the forest to pick up Rotom, who, despite being created as a monster, still has a human soul. Baku then invites Rotom to join his group and changes his name to Marco. The scene then shifts to show what really happened to Sadakuni, who, after successfully obtaining a discovery about methanhydrate, told the Japanese government that he wanted to share the discovery for free with other countries, which prompted the government when Sadakuni was determined to dominate the Japanese government by becoming the leader of the Kakeru Club. The explosion killed all of the scientists in the laboratory, but Sadakuni survived but lost his sight. The day of Baku and Sadakuni's game arrived quickly, and the gambling was witnessed directly by many state elites, including Ranko. Sadakuni's assistant scares Kaji as soon as he enters the gambling arena, causing him to accidentally break one of the CCTV cameras before the gambling begins. Hikoichi invites the audience to participate in gambling this time, and each investor contributes millions of yen as a bet for any player who wins. Investors pay a lot to see what punishment the losing player will get, considering that a big gamble like this will definitely bet their lives, and the proof is that in a short time, investors managed to collect a total of 2 billion yen as a bet. Following that, the investor has the authority to decide on the punishment for the losing player. They also agreed on the use of the hangman as a punishment at this time. That means that the loser and his partner will be hanged together. Not wanting to miss the game, Soichi Kuruma and the leader of the Kakeru Club looked excited as they watched the gambling progress. In no time, the gambling finally began. Baku and Sadakuni will play a gambling called Hangman Old Mad, in which the two players must take turns taking cards from the opponent in order to look for the same card. As a result, any player who receives an Old Mad card at the end of the game is immediately declared a loser. In one Old Mad card, there are numbers ranging from 1 to 5, and the number chosen determines the number of gallows parts to be assembled. Any player who receives an Old Mad card in total 11 will be declared a loser. In this game, players are free to use any sneaky tactics as long as the opposing players are unaware. Sadakuni managed to choose the right card in the first round, so Baku received an Old Mad card worth 5. Despite the fact that the number was considered very high for the first round, Baku still looked very relaxed, continued to the second round, Sadakuni came back ahead after an old mad card worth 4 ended up in Baku's hand. As a result, Baku has now collected 9 of the 11 parts of the gallows, which makes Kaji and Ranko very frustrated because they believe Baku will definitely lose. However, in the third round, Baku receives an old mad card worth 1, which means Baku has now collected 10 of the 11 parts of the gallows, and he and Kaji are only one step away from being hanged together. Baku was determined to turn things around in this final round. As usual, he took out his favorite biscuit and began playing the real trick. He knew very well that from the start of the game Sadakuni could see all the cards. He had realized this from the very beginning of their meeting. He knew that Sadakuni lost his sight, but there was something that made Sadakuni able to see through the CCTV in the gambling arena. So since the next round Baku covered, and finally, in the last round, Baku openly saw Sadakuni's card and drew an old mad card with a pen. This made Sadakuni think that Baku had the last old mad card even though the card was in his, Sadakuni's, hand. With that proof, finally Baku could prove that Sadakuni had committed fraud. Even though Sadakuni could not see it directly, someone had installed a device behind his back so that his brain could see everything that was happening via CCTV. Because one of the CCTVs was damaged prior to the match, Baku took advantage of the CCTV damage as a cultural point from Sadakuni. Enraged by the defeat, Mekama tried to attack Baku, but Hikoichi managed to beat him and immediately kill him. As a result of that genius, Baki and Kaji were victorious, while Sadakuni and his colleagues had to be hanged. Sadakuni said before he was hanged that he would always support Baku in his efforts to bring peace. Sadakuni then officially granted Baku membership status, which means Baku has the right to challenge the leader of the Kakeru Club in gambling again. Baku showed a photo of Sadakuni and his friends in the laboratory before the execution began, so that he could die happily. The film concludes with Baku, Kaji, Ranko, and Marco getting ready to enter the gambling room, and they are also greeted by Hikoichi, who invites Baku to enter the gambling room. We learn from this film that gambling is never right, and it never ends happily or well. Those who win will only feel addicted, while those who lose must accept the bad reality of losing all the money or his life.